Eddie Rye's greatest accomplishments is being involved for the last 40 plus years in the civil rights movement. Eddie helped create the movement, and he didn't just come out and say, well, here it is, I've done my part, I'll see you later. He's still involved in it.
People out there always talk about the Gang of Four. Roberto Maestas, Bernie White Bear from the Native American program, Larry Gossett, African American, and Bob Santos from the Asian community, and four of us bringing the communities together. Eddie was always a part of all the things that we ever did, all the rallies, the marches, the sit-ins, jail time, and Eddie got very little credit for what he was able to do.
Eddie will be thought of as being one of the leaders in the movement, and whether the issue was housing, or whether the issue was contracting, or whether the issue was education, Eddie was, and he still continues to be out there on those issues that are most important to the community.
He was always there to give a message, and his message was inclusion. You better include us in whatever you do, whether it's employment, education, housing. We are part of this fabric.
Eddie is the man, the go-to man, actually, on issues that particularly address the right of all people to share in the promise of prosperity of this country.
Worked at camp as its executive director. He opened up the doors to all minority groups, not just those that were living around the sanctuary or African Americans. You take a look at him trying to get contracts for minorities, and he truly believed in contracts for minorities, not necessarily contracts for blacks. Now, he worked for a lot of black companies, but he always stretched out further. He stretched out further. He truly believed in a multi-ethnic approach to justice and to all the kinds of things that we want to be happening here in our community.
Eddie's like GQ, shark skin suits and a very nice knotted tie, it's always impeccable. So he'll still go out there and demonstrate with his duds on.
Everybody was kind of dressed down and kind of walking the streets, and here comes Eddie walking down in a three-piece suit, and I thought, brother, what are you doing?
One day I saw him, I said, hey Eddie, are you going to church today? Because he looked so good. He says, no, I'm going to a demonstration. And it was really nice to see that. You kind of see the old civil rights guys always used to dress up when they went to demonstrations, and Eddie was no different. He was always looking great.
This was also the height of the anti-apartheid movement, and so the city and the county and everybody, all the governors, they had this big show of supporting this movement for equality in South Africa, and we would not buy products from companies in South Africa. And so Eddie finds out that the tile that's being used for the tunnel, the metro tunnel, came from Italy. Well, actually, it was shipped from Italy, and the tiles were actually manufactured. The raw product was from South Africa. So he brought that to the attention of the demonstrators, of the leaders of the civil rights movement, and the elected officials, and that shipment had to be returned to the shipping company in Italy, and another company had to be contracted to supply the tiles for the tunnel. So when anyone who drives or goes through the tunnel on the buses, whatever it is, through the transit, remember Eddie Rye when you see those tiles.
Was the work that we did with many people in naming what was then Sharpless Middle School to Aki Crozet Middle School Academy. And I'll tell you, at first, this thing was just like slicing a hot knife into butter. we did in terms of gathering support to have the name change. We did a petition. Thousands of people were signing it, and the school board members, everybody was on board, and the superintendent at the time was on board. We made a big pitch to staff, and Ron Sims showed up, Larry Gossett showed up, etc. And boy, this thing was just flying through, and it went through. The school board voted it in, and we were all happy, and it was named Aki Krose Middle School Academy. And then some people found out about this that weren't supportive of it. And I'll just say it created some controversy. And at that time, I think we saw some people emerge beyond just being supportive who says, I'm there. And it was Eddie Rye.
I think what will be his legacy is the naming of Empire Way to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. There were many times during that long struggle that Eddie was the only one. A lot of people were interested at first, and then, it dragged on and on and on, and Eddie was the one that never gave up and that continued to look into the minutiae of the government regulations, and how the process would work and all of that, and he just stuck with it for as long as it took until it got renamed.
A lot of people disliked Eddie for that. A lot of companies, a lot of people were against him for that, and it wasn't a favorite topic of people, especially a lot of the business people and people that lived in the city of Seattle at that particular time. But Eddie was a tough guy, and he stuck to it. And we now have a beautiful street named after Dr. Martin Luther King. And that would not have happened if Eddie Rye wasn't there.